Oh, okay. Well, you know, sorry. No. Probably there is.
Start at 5:30.
Just kidding.
Did you see you have a parking sign was knocked down in front of the Masonic Temple?
No, I didn't.
It's in, I just noticed it's in the gutter. Or the whole thing. It's like pulled out from the site. Another little.
I'm loving the agendas.
I wish I could head time drive around all town every day.
I was on the way to Canada. So.
All right.
We gotta have a real house. I've seen it. I know some people screwed up once a month. The person actually the one didn't get it, so the other person left too early.
Are you all set?
Can you try?
So after retirement.
Yes.
The whole thing. Wish your minds would change.
I'll stop in tomorrow.
Is that right?
No, it's for.
Back on the stuff.
I just started adding it to gutter. It's like a. It's gonna finish my coat. Really want to make a difference. It's you know, the whole like that, it's not a big. I need to manual, so it wouldn't be like that.
This meeting of the Livingston City Commission is called to order. Roll call, please. Present.
Commissioner Hopwood. Here. Commissioner Freeman.
Here.
Commissioner Short. Commissioner Sandberg.
Present.
We'll now have a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Much obliged. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so the first order of business are consent items. Is there a motion from the commission on the consent items?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I open up and approve consent items A, B, C, D, and E.
Okay.
I'll second.
So there's a motion by Commissioner Freeman, second by Commissioner Hoagland. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Bennett.
Yes.
Commissioner Hopwood.
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman.
Yes.
Commissioner Sandberg.
4.
Motion passes. We do have one proclamation tonight regarding rodeo days. And that reads,
Whereas the Livingston Area Chamber of Commerce is hosting rodeo days in conjunction with the Livingston Roundup Association. And whereas the Livingston Roundup is an annual event enjoyed by the greater Livingston community. And whereas the theme of this year's Roundup parade is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And whereas the Network Live Business After Hours occurs on Thursday, June 29th, the Thursday evening preceding the rodeo from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Park County Fairgrounds. I now therefore, I, James Bennett, Chairman of the Livingston City Commission, hereby proclaim June 29th to July 4th, 2017 as rodeo days in the city of Livingston, Montana. Okay, so we do not have any scheduled public comment. There are no public hearings. There are no ordinances. We have several resolutions. First resolution is resolution number 4728, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to sign an agreement with the State of Montana Department of Natural Resources and Conservation. Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is an annual agreement with the NRC. They provide us with the brush truck that we use for the fire department, and in return, we agree that we will respond to any wildland fires, and that they will reimburse us for any costs that we respond to the fires.
Right. Is there a motion from the commission on resolution number 4728?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we pass resolution 4728.
I'll second.
So motion by Commissioner Friedman, second by Commissioner Hoagland. Commission discussion, Commissioner Sandberg.
So they reimburse us true cost?
There's a set cost, there's a schedule, that's part of the agreement. That's a separate agreement. They have a schedule that says it's pretty close. It's not full cost, but it's pretty close. They do get a discount since they provide us the vehicle all year long.
Because I'm thinking often, we're sending out we send out our people, that's gonna require a back bill. So I'm just curious if we're getting reimbursed the whole overtime.
We do not get reimbursed for the backfill.
Okay.
Just for the cost of the firefighters that are fighting fire.
Okay. And do we know how many of those that we've responded to in, say, the last year?
I don't think we responded to any in the last year. Actually, there may have been one. I don't know the exact number, but I think it was one at most last year.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other commission discussion? I do have just one brief question, and I think you answered it by answering Commissioner Sandberg. It says fiscal note and says see attached, and probably there doesn't need to be one, right? Fiscal note, it's
Yeah.
mainly a pass-through to the greater extent.
It is. The only fiscal cost would be for the backfill, and the next balance by the use of the truck itself.
Okay. All right. Is there any public comment on resolution number 4728? Public comment? All right. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Bennett,
Yes?
Commissioner Hoagland. Yes. Commissioner Friedman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandberg,
For,
Motion passes. Our second resolution is resolution number 4729, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing overnight camping at Mayor's Landing in connection with the 54th Annual Yellowstone Boat Float. Mr. Carlos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution again just gives the permission for the Yellowstone boat float to use Mayor's Landing as a camping ground. Again, this is something they do fairly regularly on an annual basis. They've been very good stewards of the area. We've had no problems with them in the past. They've been very conscientious about cleaning up, and they've done a really great job. So we recommend it.
All right. Is there a motion from the commission on resolution 4729?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to pass resolution 4729.
I'll second.
So there's a motion by Commissioner Friedman, a second by Commissioner Hoagland. Commission discussion, questions, clarification. Is there any public comment? Okay. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Bennett,
Yes?
Commissioner Hoagland. Yes. Commissioner Freeman.
For.
Commissioner Sandberg.
For.
Motion passes. Resolution number 4730, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to sign live performance agreements with performing artists for Summerfest 2017. Mr. Carlos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As stated, this is just giving me permission to enter into agreements with musicians for this year's Summerfest. We're working through those agreements right now. Costs seem to be within line what we expected, and we expect to still operate a surplus for this year's Summerfest.
Right. All right, is there a motion from the commission on resolution number 4730?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to pass resolution 4730.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Friedman, second by Commissioner Hoagland. Commission questions, discussion, clarification. Public comment. Oh, Commissioner Hoagland. You're welcome.
I'm just curious if there's been feedback coming to the city on the day of choice for the event. It's not so much the date, but the day, like it being on Friday versus the Saturday night because of it being during the workday. Anything coming to you? I've had just a few people.
I have not had anybody call the office or email me directly. I haven't had any feedback on that.
Anyone else heard that? They were just wondering if there was a reason. Nothing super negative about it, but
What's on Saturdays, previous years?
not last year. It was Friday, but then it's been like 2 days, so it was a Friday night and then a Saturday, and then it was 3 days, and into Sunday. Just curious.
The only complaint I heard was in the past, going from multiple days to one day.
So,
Any other commission discussion, clarification? Public comment? All right, roll call.
Chairperson Bennett.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoagland.
yes,
Commissioner Freeman.
For.
Commissioner Sandberg.
For.
Motion passes. Next resolution is resolution number 4731, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to sign a general services agreement with Brady Pro Sound for Summerfest 2017. Mr. Carlos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is a Summerfest contract. This is for the sound systems. Estimated cost is around $1,500. Again, it's within the budget we've set for this, and I'm sure this will be a good service.
All right, is there a motion from the commission on resolution 4731?
I make a motion, we approve resolution 4731.
Second.
There was a motion by Commissioner Hoagland, second by Commissioner Friedman. Commission discussion, questions, clarification. Commissioner Sandberg.
Did we look at a local venue operator for that?
I'm not sure which operators we've looked at for, but I do know we were the lowest paid.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any public comment? All right, roll call.
Chairperson Bennett.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoagland. Yes. Commissioner Freeman.
For.
Commissioner Sandberg.
For.
Motion passes. Our last resolution for the evening is resolution number 4732, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to sign a collective bargaining agreement with Montana Public Employees Association, Livingston Police Unity for fiscal year 2017 through 2018. Mr. Cardos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution approves the contracts for both the police and the dispatchers. Highlights of this year's contract is that it is a single-year contract, so we renegotiate again next year. Provides for a 2% pay increase for base salaries. The increase in the health stipend is fairly a neutral cost to the employees themselves because of the increase in the out-of-pocket costs. The overall cost should be about the same to them depending on whether they're family, whether they're a family plan or individual plan. Family plans will probably be still more out-of-pocket to the employees. Individual plans, it should cover most of the costs. It does increase the uniform allowance. And in both of these, there was an FTE that was added. Police, it was an outright add. In the dispatcher, it was a conversion from a 0.6 FTE to 1 FTE.
All right, so is there a motion from the commission for resolution 4732?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to pass resolution 4732.
I'll second.
So there's a motion by Commissioner Friedman, second by Commissioner Vogel. Commission questions, discussions, and clarifications. Commissioner Sandberg.
What was the health insurance stipend prior?
I don't think I had the number for prior. I think it was an increase of 757 this year. So I'm not sure what the percentage increase was, just the total increase.
Okay. Sorry, I'm speaking into the microphone. Love this summary. Thank you so much. It is so helpful to know where we fall within other Montana cities as well as populations around size. So thank you very much. One of the things in reviewing the contract that I'm wondering, do the salary figures take into account all the additions as well, differential pay? I was noticing something about if they pass some sort of physical fitness test, they get time off as opposed to pay. That seemed rather rich, like 36 hours or something like that, every 6 months. Is that correct?
I think it is every 6 months for the physical fitness.
And so those are just some things so that's an addition on if they were to do that twice a year. So on top of 3 or 4 weeks paid vacation, that's another, 72 hours of vacation time. That then has to be taken into account that somebody has to backfill that, which then increases the need for FTEs. So it's just, there's some interesting, having been my first time to review the police contract, there's a lot of rich benefits that would be interesting to know the history behind, which obviously neither you or I know at this point. And if there's, comment, that's, anyway.
So the comparison you have is only base salary or max salary. It doesn't include the additional items that, such as certifications or time in service. Those aren't in that particular comparison. However, we are pretty consistent with other contracts as far as those additional benefits go. I don't have the exact where we rank in there, but there's nothing in our contract that is significantly different than the other contracts around the state.
So it's normal to give people a week off if they pass a fitness test?
It is in most unions, as well as in the fire contract. They have a physical fitness test as well, except there's a cash bonus instead of time off. So it's common across most law enforcement and fire union contracts to have a physical fitness bonus just to ensure the physical fitness of the employees.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there any other questions, clarifications for the commission? No?
Yeah.
Is there any public comment? Might have some public. That would be fine. Yeah, I do have one question. one time in the past, and I'm not sure if it was in this particular agreement. I was looking for it, and I didn't see it. What are the raise from within the department and their particular rank? How do they raise that rank or that pay? Is there any merit-based factor in this particular contract? I didn't see any.
I believe there is, if I can find it, there is longevity pay, but most of the additional pay comes from certifications.
Okay.
And so the certifications have to be earned on merit system. So there's the basic police officer and communications officer, and then they have advanced instructor, field training officer, commander, administrator. So all those are certifications they can obtain for additional pay.
I was thinking that, the different designations for sergeant and the different rankings as you go up the hierarchy within the police department. Are there any, is it all by longevity? Is there any merit base to that system?
The actual position based pay
Yes.
versus.
Right.
I believe there is. I'm not exactly sure where it is in these contracts.
Okay. Maybe?
Yes, from stepping to a police officer 2 to police officer 3, it's longevity plus training hours. You have to have so many training hours to get to level 2, and then to get to a police officer classification 3, you have to have your intermediate certificate, which is longevity plus training hours, post-certified training hours.
Okay. So it's a combination of both, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay. I think that answers that question. Thank you very much. Commissioner Hoagland.
First, a statement, when I was looking through other contracts, there are news reports mostly on contracts. It seemed like this was pretty normal in the request. Do you agree with that?
I would. It's a pretty standard contract.
Pretty standard. And then, and the health insurance is usually around about 800 is what I was seeing. And that's just slightly below. Increases often a little higher. Do you have any feedback on some of the interests that we negotiated? Was there anything the city was wanting more of or negotiating that we should know?
I think the main concession that the city got out of this one was the 1-year contract. Obviously, you prefer longer-term contracts with guaranteed pay raises over those multiple years. So in this case, the 1-year contract, I think, was so aligned with the fact that we were getting the city manager. So they agreed to allow us to do a 1-year contract, and then I'll get the privilege of negotiating this again next year.
Roll call, please.
Jefferson Bennett,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodward,
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman,
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg,
Against.
Motion passes. Before we get into the action item, okay, we do have one action item. That's not a great request. So let's take a look at that first. Action item A, discuss, approve, deny sewer extension request for Lalich.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Lalich, yes.
Lalich property. Excuse me. It takes me a while to get
That's all right.
pronunciation. Mr. Carduce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This request did come from Mr. Lalich to be hooked to the city sewer. Originally, the request was to build a septic system, but the county, in fact, I think it was DEQ technically, referred them to us because their lines within 1,500 or 500 feet of the current sewer main. So by regulation, they have to come to the city. The city reviewed this. Due to the distance, it's over 450 feet. It also is at pretty much the end of the city property. There's no more development that's going to happen in that area. And additionally, we would have to take out a row of cottonwood trees to do this. It's cost prohibitive and really provides no additional benefits to the city. So the city's recommendation is that we deny the request to city services and allow them to go back to the county with that denial and hopefully be able to put in the septic system.
All right, so, would you, before we have a motion or discussion from the commission, do you want to present any materials on your behalf?
I mean, the summary that he's provided is pretty much everything I could tell you. The only additional thing is that it's a land conveyance from my mom, and so that's what's driving all of this and why we originally seek to do the construction project there.
Okay. Was there any commission discussion, clarification at all?
I would like to clarify one thing, if that's okay. So in this case, while the request is to deny, the vote in this case to deny is still to deny the extension. So that would be the affirmative vote in this case, which I'm going backwards.
Yeah,
We don't even have to vote, do we?
You need to either approve or deny the extension. Okay. Because he's forced to request it by the state. So the request is before us, so you have to approve it.
In either case, the motion needs to be on the positive.
So the motion would be to approve.
The extension.
Approve the extension.
So if there's no motion, then it would obviously die.
That's what I would
Yes,
suggest.
you are correct.
But I would probably take the prerogative that we should provide, anyone with a request with a vote yes or no.
As long as everybody's clear and understands what the vote is and how they're voting, that people don't take action.
Yeah, if you,
One thing or the other.
just so we have to make a motion in the positive. If you vote yes, you're voting for the line for the extension. If you vote no, you're not voting for the extension. Correct, Jay? It's that simple. Is there any public comment? All right. Well, I would entertain a motion from the commission so that we can provide an answer.
Make a motion. I motion to approve action item A, the sewer extension request for the Lodge property.
Okay. So there's a motion by Commissioner Hoagland. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Friedman. Okay, is there any other commission discussion, clarification? Okay, there was no public comment. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Bennett,
No?
Commissioner Hopper,
No.
Commissioner Friedman,
No.
Commissioner Sandberg,
Against.
Motion fails. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
You're welcome. All right. So before we have pick up the request from the URA, I was just curious if everyone received the email from city manager regarding expenditures from the URA. No? Did everyone receive that? Mr. Sandberg? Mr. Curtis, do you want to provide any comment before we move into this?
I would just like to provide an overall comment for the grant systems. I sat down with URA and sat through their last meeting. I also sat down with Mr. Hanser, their accountant, or their financial person for the URA. After reviewing the commitments over the next several fiscal years, as well as where they're currently at, if they're unable to find a source of additional funding, if they're unable to bond, or if they're unable to go on, the URA currently does not have the funds to meet the obligations for the street improvement project. So my recommendation would be, until they can secure those funds, that we limit payments to projects that are directly related to the street project, mainly to protect the property owners that are going to have to provide payment for their sidewalks as we do those projects. If the funds run out before we get to those property owners, they will be legally responsible for the entire cost of those sidewalk replacements, and I would rather that they had some of the URA money available to them to pay those costs across the entire spectrum of business owners instead of individual business owners for other types of grants.
So what is that figure?
Which figure?
I see a summary of the expenses, but so where are we determining that they can't meet their obligations?
There's a separate email I sent out a couple of days prior that
Okay.
had their financials.
Mm-hmm,
It showed through at the end of FY 20, the balance according, and it did include the current items up for discussion. But their balance would be about $40,000 at the end of FY 20. There would still be approximately 1.6 million in obligations for the street project sidewalks, which didn't include the financing of the business 50%. That's only the 50%. It also includes some of the other items that the URA had signed on for, such as benches, flower baskets, and some other items. However, they are currently without bonding, without any additional monies when they sunset in December of 18. They will have about 1.6 million in unmet obligations for the downtown street project.
Does that include the annual allocation to the city or just?
That is just the URA commitment to the business owners for
To
the
the bus-
sidewalks.
1.6 in sidewalks?
Yes.
Okay, so that doesn't include their contribution to the CIP plan?
No.
If they were, okay. How, 1.6 million, so how many more streets do we have, I guess, I can't.
There's currently 13 phases to be accomplished.
Okay, that's right.
I'm not sure the total number of blocks that covers, but it's pretty much the rest of the downtown area besides maybe the garden and college.
So is your recommendation that we don't approve any more funding commitments outside of the sidewalks then?
Unless it goes directly to the street project in some form or another. If it's additional money for vaults or walls and that kind of thing, it goes directly to being able to build the streets and the sidewalks above the businesses. I would recommend that we do approve those, or that you approve those. But if it's outside of that, I just think we need to reserve that money for the other business owners, the other property owners that will need it in the future as much as we can.
Okay.
And then if we are able to obtain some funding that's above and beyond commitments, then absolutely that could be used for individual grants for facades or energy improvement. But I think we need to meet the requirement for the construction first and then the extras.
And is it a requirement? I mean, because if that's the term I'm struggling with, is a requirement. I mean, I think they're required for the commitments that they've made thus far for business owners in streets that are on the docket currently to be fixed. But if the URA was never a guaranteed perpetual funding source in the first place, could they be, is it true that they are responsible for everything into the next 15 years then, even though there was?
Is URA responsible? That question. No, the URA has never really been responsible. That was just the agreements that they had set up to cover those costs. The property owners are always the ones that are responsible by code. The sidewalks are their property and they're responsible for it.
Right, but I guess when the URA, it's not a perpetual entity. And they knew that going into it, so I'm trying to understand how we feel that they are responsible for working on paying business owners and the property owners past the sunset, when we knew that from the get-go that they may not even be around then.
I don't know if responsible is the right word.
Okay.
I just know that was the commitment that was made, and I think that's what the property owners were counting on. So I guess that's the point of view I'm looking at it from, is what the property owners were told they would be able to get from the URA in future years. Because that's really who we're talking about. This isn't taking money away from the city. It's only taking money away from future property owners when there's no money left for them when their sidewalk has to be replaced.
I'm just trying to, with that type of figure and with what they've already put in, I'm not sure that from the get-go that they would have had the appropriate funding for the 10 years of existence to pay for all of the city in the first place.
I'm not sure we ever were going to collect enough revenue to cover all the obligations that were agreed to.
I mean, I'm talking just even the sidewalks.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back to the original to see, exactly what the inflow is. I think overall they're close to $2 million right now that have been collected. I think the overall sidewalk costs are somewhere a little north of that. A little
Right.
bit. So I'm not sure if they ever would have been able to cover all the sidewalk costs. Perhaps if it started, I don't know what the inflationary costs have been over the last 5 years. So if it started on time, they may have been able to meet all those costs.
So I think that's just the interesting dilemma then that we, in my short term here on the city commission, has been that these projects have been put forth for us for the facade, et cetera, projects that we're asked to approve. And, not having the accurate financial picture or the accurate consensus of what the original agreement was. So, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I'm struggling of how did we get here and why. So, appreciate the information. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Any other commission discussion?
Can we have a representative?
Yeah. Can we hear from the URA on these issues? One of the things that, one of the things we discussed at the meeting, city manager. Oh, and also your name and. Oh, Bob Evancher, I live in 128 South Yellowstone Street. I'm on the URA board. One of the things we did discuss with the city manager, and we've talked about it among ourselves, is bonding. And we did talk about possible bonding multiple projects, not only the URA project, but the project for CIP. And if we bond together for numerous projects, we get a better rating, we get a better deal. And so that was one of our discussions that city manager didn't mention just now. And I think that's a way that we can fulfill the obligations that the city and through the URA and in addition to the URA has on their docket. I just have to say, clear blue is that oftentimes I think that the URA is now being considered a slush fund for budgetary inequities done by in past administrations. You took about $100,000 away from us 2 years ago. You're asking $90,000 this time in order to complete the obligations for just 2017, 2018 projects. And then in addition to that, we stepped up to help the property owners with the vaults, which was a considerable amount of money, probably, and it was $200 and some thousand, plus the $30,000 for all the studies that we did, only to find out in February that indeed the property owners don't own the vaults, the city owns the vaults. So theoretically, we're giving the city all that money that originally was supposed to help out the property owners in financial situation, which they said they couldn't afford. So in some aspect of it, I feel that, a lot of our money, besides the sidewalks, which is what we were set up to do originally, was the sidewalks, has gone to other uses. And I think that we need to think about that too, because the idea of the URA was to take and do additional things to the downtown besides the CIP. And we set up the facade program and the energy efficiency programs. And we realize now that they have to be cut back, not done away with for a year until we see where we are. The problem is that they're very popular programs. We're stabilizing buildings in dire need of stabilization. We're fixing up facades that haven't been improved for possibly 50 to 75 years. And then what you see in front of you today are critical buildings in the downtown area. And the property owners are spending a lot of their own money. And we're just augmenting things which fall within the purview of the facade program and the energy efficiency program. It was when we figured up at our meeting, one of the applicants that's on your thing here will probably not be applying. But it says at this point in time, we should have about 200, with the amount of money coming in June, which is the first segment of the property taxes.
we should have $270,000. And that's including our commitments that are on your docket today. So if you approve the items that are on today, we are left with $270,000 for up till the end of the year, which would be the first property tax thing. The other ones would be due in December. And those are equivalent to about $110,000 each. So what I ask you is, I know there's a problem, but I think the city needs to work it out with the URA, because our commitments have gone far and beyond what originally were set up to do. And if indeed we have a projection that goes 10 years into the future, knowing that we were going to sunset, either we have to bond with the city on other projects, or all along, this was made up numbers. And I don't think the property owners who put the URA together wanting to have their tax money taken specifically downtown, I don't think it's that fair. I think it's doing them not good disservice. It's doing them a good disservice. So I think, given the thing that we realize at this point that probably we won't be able to take any more requests until we get the whole thing figured out, bonding and what the city wants to do. But I think that it's only fair to the people that have taken the time to submit their applications up to this point, you to consider them, because they're all thorough projects that have taken a lot of time and effort, and they've expended and are going to expend a good deal of their money to get this done, and I think they deserve our help.
Colleague, you have a comment as well?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do. It was an eye-opener to us as the URA. It's really one of very few straightforward reports that we had ever gotten. And I'm probably the longest term, well, I am the longest term member of the URA. And, requests have went out, and we've always gotten basically the nod and go ahead that everything's good. And the other thing that, our financial reporting has been very frustrating to us, and it was great to have Joe work with Paige, I believe, and with Mike, and get a realistic report given to us. I feel very much the same way as Bob does about the vaults. We were helping out the building owners, which in all reality, since then we were told recently that the city owned the vaults, the majority of that $230 some odd thousand that we put in went to the city, really, because it was their vaults. And the only part that went to the building owners was to construct the walls. The other thing that's very frustrating is the URA started at the same time that the CIP started in 2003. And so we should be done with the CIP project by now. And the URA should have been able to go along with the city in doing the sidewalk renovations. And when we started, I believe B Street was $4 a square foot. And now we are looking at over $12 a square foot to complete a sidewalk. So there's a huge difference in what it's costing us when we started to what we're seeing right now. And we have talked about bonding. We've talked about it with Mike. He's very aware of that. We would like to pull in other people as we go forward. At the last meeting, we were told that probably to start right now is a little bit too early for the process, that we should wait maybe 6 months and get started. And I just hope we can complete it in the time then that we have, because I think it's very important that at least we can fulfill our obligation of splitting the cost of the sidewalk with the building owner. That's all we've ever said we can do. It was not covering the cost 100%. We'll pay 50% of the sidewalks. And then the other 50%, we in the past have offered to finance for them. And so there is additional very little, but there is additional monies coming in from the interest that we charge to finance that other 50% that happened on B Street and that happened on 100 block of North Main Street. So I think that is the most important thing that we can do. And we have already talked about it. We might have to postpone the energy efficiency program and the facade program. We hope that we can pick them up at one time. They have become very, very popular projects, programs for the downtown. We have seen significant building improvements, and that increment should show in what we get back when taxes and such go up. And the main project was the Albemarle building that will go from about $4,500 a year to about $36,000 a year in taxes. And we hope we see that jump. And then there's Joel Reinhold's building that we hope we see that jump with. There's now there's Pinky's and there's Out of the Blue. There's several.
Well, the one on the dock today is the one that's being
Yes,
done.
103 North Main, and that's the old.
Depending on what generation.
Yeah, I
you
know.
live in, when it was there.
The last it was a steakhouse and a sushi place. It's next to the American Bank parking lot. It has the mural on the outside of its wall. You know, that place needs significant work before they can even open the doors. Both the main floor is sagging, the upper floor is not usable because of the sagging of the floor.
It's
And
not sagging anymore.
well, they brought that big beam in and hopefully short that up, but anyway, I mean, I'm such a fan of the URA and what we have done, and even though it's been a huge learning process for not only us that sit on the board, but also for this community on what we can do and what we have done. And so I would hope that we can approve these. If we're going to not approve these, I would like to, I'm sorry, I'll go back on my vote, but I'd like to see not approving the $90,000 for the city as well.
You know, to give you an example, I mean, the building we were talking about, their preliminary estimates, actually I heard have gone up. It's $230,000 for putting in that building. They're asking us for structural and facade and some energy stuff. So they're asking us a very small percentage of the money that's going in that building. We're seeing Shelley at Bob's Outdoor doing a facade, has lead paint, she's mitigating the lead paint, which is a health hazard to us. That's part of what our facade programs is to do, is to mitigate the hazards, the health hazards. She's going to mitigate that, have to encapsulate it. She's gone to all ends to do it the right way, and is asking $8,800 to do that. I mean, these property owners are stepping up to the plate, spending a lot of their money and asking URA for a small amount. They give up the 50%. I'm not sure if any of these, maybe a couple, are 50% of the project. So I just think what they're expecting us to do as the URA is we're doing now. And it took a long time to get these programs up and running to the extent that the community knows about it and they're coming to us. And I just think it's very sad that when all of a sudden we have this momentum going, that we have to say, well, we're sorry, we can't do it. I don't know how the community is going to react.
I have two questions. First one, is there an alternate plan to sunsetting the URA?
Yes. Yes, we're planning on bond. And as
What does that mean?
well, we have an income of roughly, we're going to say $220,000 a year, correct?
Closer to, yeah, 200, let's say 200 next month.
And so whatever we do, when we bond, we have to be able to, it's like a loan. And so we have to be able to pay that bond back as well as administer our, the funds that we have. But if we bond, we have to bond for a very specific project, and that money has to be spent on that project. It can't be spent elsewhere.
And that's why the bonding, if we could do it with the city and incorporate that, if maybe a CIP bonding things are all short of money, we get better rates on doing that than if we bonded by ourselves. So we had the discussion, and I'm not a bonding expert, but I think we were going to be looking into that as a fiscal responsible thing to do. And I think until we actually sit down to do that, we're not going to know the city or the URA where we stand in the next several years with CIP.
Terrell has the floor.
I know, I was just gonna ask if I could, you still have the floor, but can I seek clarification on the question that you asked? So are we talking bonding, it would be a revenue bond then? So
You're going to have to ask somebody who knows a whole lot more about bonding than me. I don't think it's.
well, if you guys are, I guess I just keep hearing from you and some other people that you would bond. And so I'm trying to understand, what does that mean? And I'm hoping that you guys know what that means if you're something that you're promoting. So what does that mean? Who's paying the bond?
We
Who's,
sell the bond, and there's an interest attached to it. People on the outside buy the bond. And
No, but
that
who's paying the principal and interest? Is that still just the
URA.
people in the URA, or is that all property owners?
The people in the URA.
So you are basically keeping the same, say, tax assessment that you have per se, and you're just using that to pay the principal and interest of the bond.
Right.
Okay.
Whatever the increment increases on a yearly basis.
So then you would be going after a set dollar figure for a set project, say $20 million for downtown renovations.
I think we have to
For,
go for that big one, we have to go with the city.
do you know what your capacity is?
When we looked into it a year and a half ago, our capacity was about $2 billion. And
Oh, wow, okay.
at this point, our capacity has dropped significantly.
And do you know why that is? Why it dropped?
Because of revenue.
Yes, well, because revenue coming in, and at that time, we had almost $1 million in our account.
Okay.
And then we've done some projects, you know, that we've spent that money on.
Well, like the vault
So
for
we-
$166,000.
No, yeah, I'm just trying to understand the bonding perspective. So thank you for the clarification.
I don't think it's a revenue bond, I'm not sure.
It would be a general obligation bond, just like in our general fund,
Okay,
because it's based on their tax income,
gotcha.
just like we would base.
But it's just those property owners that are paying it then?
Yeah, well, it doesn't, the actual tax doesn't change, it's just the portion of the downtown property tax that goes into the TIF that would be used to bond against.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks, Joel.
And I want to continue, actually, up two other things. You just mentioned the word revenue dropping, or the statement revenue is dropping. Does anyone have feedback on why? Because, I mean, maybe I don't know, maybe I don't know, sorry, enough, but if our property values are increasing because of the changes to the downtown, which I think is going to happen to some of the buildings, and we are getting more taxes with the Abermural, for example, why is our revenue dropping? Does anyone have feedback on that?
I don't think we've seen it drop in the last couple of years. I think we saw it drop in 2008 when the economy went down. And then I think it's taken a while for that to come back up. And I think it's been coming back up the last couple of years. The city has always, since I've been on this board, been very, very conservative about their projection of our income into the URA. And we usually exceed that projection. But we have been working between that 200, 240 for ever since I have, you know, been on the board. And so that's what I can tell you. there. Many times we've exceeded that. I think at one time we were up to 280 and there was a couple of years up to 280, and that was quite a surprise. And so my question was, how does the state who does these assessments know that these buildings have, went through a renovation? And Jim Woodhall provided information to me that anytime they take out a building permit, that building permit is sent into the state. And that's how the state knows that these projects have happened and these buildings have been renovated in some way. And so it pulled it to their attention that there needs to be a reassessment done. And so I was curious about that, so I asked the question.
I appreciate that answer. I'm gonna just lay it out. I'm feeling uncomfortable making a decision on this. I feel like we need to table these items, not go for or against them at this moment, because I think there's a lot of things up in the air. I think there's some need for our financial department to help spreadsheet of expenses, costs, things, all kinds of things. I feel like I don't have enough information, especially with all this new information coming in to approve or deny any of these requests, because I think generally we like approving these. We do it often because it's forward thinking as far as our downtown, but with our finances being very sketchy and sounding like we don't really have all the answers before we make these decisions this time, I would feel way better tabling it until you guys get together more, work together, really get a concrete list of expenses and projects coming up, or what's going to go out and in, so we can understand this better, to not make a decision that's going to hurt us financially, URA and the city. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I know both of you, and I know you already and how valuable it is. I've always felt that Jarrell just kind of alluded to it. As commissioners, we were just never put in the loop of what the heck was going on. And I didn't even know we never got representative reports from anybody in the commission. Usually we have a commissioner that's part of the thing. I just felt this one area that's so darn important, that what is happening. And I mean, everything you're doing, I think it's fantastic stuff. The money end of it, we just never was in front of us to really grapple with. So this is one of the few times I think we have a full idea of how important it is in the numbers. It always just bothered me. I just felt like, could I sit down and tell the story of URA, where they're going, where the money comes from. The money is part of our general funds, I think. So we really need a clear definition of where the money starts and where it's going and what we need to do. I don't know if this delay hurts you in any way, but I think they're all kind of alluded to it. We don't have a lot of ammunition going, so it's kind of frustrating. And I want you to be successful and I want these things to happen. But I think we need a clear financial picture. That's it.
I would probably concur, just because of the kind of information we've had in the past few days about, where we stand financially. And I think that from everything I'm hearing right now, and I don't know if we can do this, but it seems like the administration, the URA, and the city commission should just have a work session with as much financial information prepared beforehand to really, I think both of you will know that every time you bring a request, the first thing I ask you is, do you have that fund set for everything else? And kind of the answer is yes, if we bond. Well, that's one of them. But I think what we need to do is really be accurate at this point. I feel concerned as some of the other commissioners here that we've requested information, you have requested information, now we're starting to get the information. Financially, I think it's important for us to really be accurate and clear about it so we really know what we have. We really know what we have, we know where we're going, and we can all feel confident that every time there's a request before us, that we know that, you know, obligations are going to be met. So I would say I would agree, I would say let's table this. You know, the administration pull together as much financial information as we can regarding you know, projected revenues, what the city has for expenses. I think some of these are probably pretty accurate because they're probably come out of our capital improvements projects moving forward, and also really understand the parameters of bonding. You know, I don't know if anyone here on this board or, you know, administration or finance or URA really knows what that means and what the responsibility of it is, and, you know, do we have the would we really have the money to work, you know, to support that type of endeavor? So I think it'd be wise at this point to say, hey, we've been asking for this information for a while. We're finally starting to get pieces that are illuminating as far as the position of the URA and, you know, where it's going at this point, and really know what we can really do. You know, I think that would be the fiscal responsible thing to do.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like the URA, if we could have the information that was passed to you earlier this week.
Joe has it. I sent it to him earlier. Asked him to pass it out to the URA.
We never got it yet. So.
Good. Yeah, it was basically some rough numbers on projects, URA projects, city projects, sidewalk costs, that type of thing, and some general. I requested, you know, where have we spent URA money? We got kind of more of a historical extending pattern as well. So, does anyone not agree with that? Not agree with that? Do you think that we should do something different? I really think we should say, let's get all our information. Let's make sure we're absolutely clear about what we can and can't do. And at that point, we can make, you know, sound decisions. Mr. Cardis, do you have any comment on that?
I just add to what you said. I think one of the things I would like to see is all the approved expenditures over the years that we have approved and what's coming in, and kind of get a bird's eye view of it all together as well, and just adding to kind of the requests that we have put down, just so we all can see it together. What are we doing as a whole versus, you know, what through the years when we have approved, what were the amounts? It just added up. I think it would help all of us to see the whole picture. And like I said, can you just get on that thing?
You have to say.
Okay. I think the concept of URA is great, and I would hate to see it go away and at all, because I see the advantages. So I'd love to just see us work together a little bit more to finalize the questions and come up with the answers to these questions. So that's all.
Mr. Sandberg?
Question in regard, so can the URA, can you not create another URA once one sunsets? Because you can just redo.
If you do it, then you go back, the increment goes back to 0. So it takes a long time to make it go back up when you have money.
Gotcha. Thank you. The other question I had is in, just in the philosophy of the URA and reviewing some of the requests. I noticed that some of those folks are new property owners, so they really haven't paid in anything into the URA, but yet are requesting funds from the URA. So I'm just curious how the other property owners who've been paying into it feel when a new property owner comes in and is requesting an allocation and they haven't paid in yet.
Part of that, I believe, is that even if they leave and not pay into it, the value of that building still has gone up. That increment has still gone up. It is going to repay its loan back to the URA if we continue, or back to the city at within 10 years. And that's always our goal, is that the increment that it improves pays their loan back to the city within 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I had that same issue with it, and then that's how it was explained to me, is that it's still a building within our downtown. It still increases that value, and so that money does not leave the downtown, let's say the URA for now, or what the city, schools, and county will eventually do.
Yeah, understood. I just, we also hear the argument about these are the funds that the property owners have put away and they're the ones that should be using them. So when you have somebody from out of town coming in who hasn't paid their share yet, I can just curious if there's any disgruntled folks in regards to that.
I haven't heard any disgruntled folks, but you have to remember that in many cases, as to one of the requests today, taking a vacant building that's been vacant for years, I'm sure it's 0 property taxes. So after they put in $400,000 into there, that building's going to generate very quickly.
I understand that. That's not my question. My question is just the concern of the people who've been paying into the fund for 14 years.
And it was
So that's good.
It was 2 different building owners downtown that explained it to me in that way, and which then I brought to the city, to the URA. So it was 2 different property owners downtown that said, but Carly, just because they're brand new, doesn't mean that money is going anyplace but into the downtown. And even if they don't continue, somebody else will, and that value of that building is still going to be there.
Thank you.
All right, I want to open this up for public comment as well. I see some people raising their hands back there that would like to make some comments. So if you have a public comment, please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Jill Maybe, 310 South H Street. I have owned 2 large commercial buildings in town in the URA district. One of them since '93, so it's definitely open within the URA district and paid a lot of money into it. And I have had I was actually part of the original team that went around and condemned the downtown for us to get into the URA. So I kind of understand from the beginning. I agree with you that my sense in the meetings that I have attended over the years of the URA is that there wasn't a real handle on how much money was coming in, how the money was going to be spent, and really keeping a hand, knowing where the money was coming from and where it was going. There's been a lot of money spent that I thought that it wasn't done wisely. And my sense when we started the URA, from my perspective and being there from the very beginning, was that it was going to be spent for things like sidewalks, the infrastructure that would be added to add to the downtown events, things like the electric outlets and the water and things like that. When I see people coming in and getting it for their buildings, for things beyond facades, I have to question that. I mean, we just added 7,000 square feet of a new rubber roof on one of our buildings, and we made it white to make it energy efficient. And I had someone approach me and tell me that I should be applying for URA funds for that. And I was a little offended by that. I was kind of taken aback. I said, no, that's my responsibility as a building owner. We added new, more energy efficient air conditioning and heating unit. That's my responsibility as a building owner. And I had to take out a loan to do it, but it's a very nominal, repayment on it because the interest rates are so low. And I wouldn't think of tapping into URA funds for that. So I agree with you. I think that this needs to really be, you guys need to really get a handle on it, and because you're the oversight for this. And I thank you very much, Mike, for doing the financial analysis on it that really needed to be done. It's something that hasn't been done until now. So I appreciate that you're finally trying to get a handle on this, get your hands around it, exactly what it is for, what the mission is, and really get that nailed down. It needs to be. It makes me nervous of bonding something really been managed that well.
Very much. So is the general consensus that we table these items until, let me ask it. Yes, no, is it general consensus? Okay. Yes, you have a public comment?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Patricia Grable, 204 East Calendar Street, Livingston. I think there's two issues that are kind of being mixed up here. One is urban renewal, and the other is whether or not to finish our city streets. And where is the money going to come? Because the city streets were supposed to be done in 2009, and then they were supposed to have been completed in 2015. So that's an issue over here. I would disagree with the previous speaker. When I came to Livingston and bought the Grable back, it had three units in there that were functioning. And so the taxes were very low. So my son and I went to work. We worked very hard. We didn't have money, so we took apartments and rented those out, and then got enough money to do the next apartment and so forth, until we had 18 units functioning. And the amount of tax increase, and this is the concept that is so important, the amount of tax increase was significant. I think we quintupled the amount of taxes paid every year on the building because we improved the building and added 15 more units, functioning units. The building was within 3 years of being condemned when we bought it. So over the last 14 years, and I appreciate the comment about former owners we've been putting in this additional tax for the last 14 years, quite willingly. And the concept is that the building owners improve the buildings, and it's a growth for the community. It is a benefit to the community. For example, when the Albemarle was approved, I've been paying into this for 14 years, but I welcome them because the burden is a shared burden. Now they're paying the additional taxes into the city as well. And so what happens is you increase the viability of your downtown, and the revenues increase. I mean, that's the whole concept between tax increment financing. We're creating a tax increment. And so I welcome the entire process. That's separate from whether or not the city and URA should go together and actually bond to finish the downtown in like 3 years so that we could really be economically viable. If you take a look at places like Bend, Oregon, which started at the same time we did, at Whitefish, Montana, the revenue that those downtowns have generated is significant. When you let a downtown deteriorate and just nickel and dime the whole thing to death, you will also degenerate the amount of revenue that can come in and the amount of taxes that can come in. So I think we are at a critical point. I think we have to keep in mind that it benefits this community enormously to increase the viability of its downtown. In the future, we must not be a suburb of Bozeman. We have to have our own income because we will die as a downtown. I mean, economists have talked about this many times. So I just wanted to say, as a property owner, in response to your question, I'm grateful to have paid that significantly higher tax over all this period of time. I'm glad to have done it because it contributed to the downtown. You saw the Grable when we got it, and you see it now. It is two different realities, really. And if you have that multiplied by all the buildings downtown, you have a viable downtown. So I just wanted to say, I appreciate what the URA has done. I appreciate what the commission has done. When we make these discussions, we have to talk about the future of our downtown as well. And I think the URA is a wonderful tool, but the city has to at some point enter this discussion and put itself on the line and say, are we going to finance our streets as well? And not, the only source for financing streets is not the URA. Never was, never would be. So thank you very much, but I'm happy to have created the Grabo the way it is today. I welcome you to come take a walk through, and there was no harm done by doing it. Thank you.
Tricia, I think if I could clarify just one thing, and you know this, I think you're just stating it incorrectly, which is you didn't pay any additional taxes. The taxes were going to be paid anyway. We just took some of those taxes off and put it into the URA fund.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
That. But the taxes, I believe, on the Grable were like $300 a year. And but once we've made all those improvements, our taxes were significant.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Over 14 years.
Mr. Durgan?
Dan Durgan, 419 South Yellowstone Street.
While you're talking, Patricia, I'm sorry. Did you actually sign in?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Thank you very much.
Just a couple quick comments. I appreciate Ms. Amber's question about new people giving money. When I bought my building a year and a half ago, a lot of building owners came to me and said, just so you know, if you need to restore your bricks, we've been paying into the URA. This is a resource available for you. They wanted me to improve with that money. That was my experience. And also the owner before me got more out of their building because they were able to say to me, you're going to need to do these repairs, but there's help for you. So they got some of their money back just in increased value because of that. I think if you're going to table this, I would just ask you to have a schedule. If you need to get a meeting together between you and the city and the URA, figure out this whole vast thing you don't understand, and then come back to another meeting. I'm wondering about especially items A through E, how time sensitive those are. If those people should have an idea of, we'll get back to you by this time, we're not just gonna. So I think if you're gonna table, I'd ask you to please, especially worry about like 103 North Main, that's in the middle of a major project. and that's a big chunk of money, or if Patricia's boiler needs to be done this summer. So I think that'd be helpful for them. Thank you.
Very welcome. Dad, would you sign in,
I
please?
did, yeah.
Oh, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
you bet.
Is there any other public comment? Yeah, oh, please come. Come on.
Chris Rogers, also a resident at 230 Sounder. Trying to keep this brief. My only observations, and I apologize to the commission for arriving a little bit later. All I managed to catch was the tail end of one objection there. My observation is that a lot of these items are, I mean, my understanding is that one of these items at least, and perhaps others as well, are actually just sort of a revalidation of what was understood to have already have been voted on before it passed, before some of these were actually, projects were actually implemented. And so, you know, it's sort of, you wouldn't want to be put in a position of saying, okay, let's force ourselves to go back and check what at the original meeting, was this in fact a valid vote and already part of the commission's decided record. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, okay. And then with respect to the objection, it occurs to me that really if the objection is to the allocation of money for improvement of properties in the downtown as well, especially where, you know, good faith efforts have been made by other people, especially, you know, where understanding has been that the support was going to be there. That's really not an objection to be made to this commission itself, but to the URA board directly, which, as I understand it, we have already brought this to you here for action. URA has already made decisions on this, and so if your objection is that the URA is supporting independent businesses in the downtown, then that's an objection that needs to be taken up with the URA board itself, because the URA commission board, as I understand, it's already, correct me if I'm wrong, made the decision that these are qualified and worthy projects, and they're just simply asking for your additional approval to something that they've made the decision for. I mean, the URA has certainly made, you know, support of a lot of city projects of various sorts without a whole lot of, you know, particulars necessarily from the cities where that's going, and you know, it's very clear as to what's going on. And so it seems to me that the URA has done its homework and has decided these projects are worthy. And so that's my observation, and I'll say it really quickly. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Susanna McLean. I live at 85 Lake Drive, and my partner Hans is back there. We're the owners of 103 North Main, which has been spoken of a few times. And I just wanted to touch on a few things that that were said that I found were very moving. It is a substantial investment on both of our parts. And a lot of people said, you know, why not those then? Why not, you know, where the growth is? And we chose Livingston very enthusiastically because it's a town that supports small businesses, that has a sense of community. And that's been reinforced since November when we bought the building, with our neighbors coming by and being supportive, and again, encouraging us to go to the URA. So this is all a little confusing. We didn't even know this meeting was happening. I would agree that a deadline would be good, because we, you know, we thought we were approved and everything is fine. So it's a little bit shocking to hear that it's going to be tabled. Not that we were expecting funds right away, but you know, if there's a 12-year project or a 15-year project, ours is, you know, a short little project. And so I would hope that there's some kind of, I don't know if there's like a mailing list that we can get on to know when these meetings are happening. I just wanted to put that in there, but just, you know, we're invested in the town. We love it. And we are really putting everything that we have into it. And we were thrilled to be approved, because to us it was just the city's way of saying, you know, that we like what you're doing, we want you to be here, and we were, you know, inspired by that. So that's just my perspective as a new property owner coming in from outside. Yeah. Thank you.
Commissioner Sandberg?
In the scope of things, I mean, if we have a 1.6 proposed deficit, is the request here minus the cities really going to be a critical impact? I just posed the question. We're talking, the requests this evening minus the cities are about what, 40? I was just trying to add them up here.
80.
80. I'm just trying to put that in perspective of a $1.6 million deficit. Just throwing that out there.
Carla?
I'm just back up to say, I'm fine with it being tabled. I think it gives us a great opportunity to look at things that, and get everybody on the same page. It doesn't matter how much sometimes we say, we never raised taxes. It was a natural thing that happened when property values were assessed and went up. I own a business downtown, so let's say I was paying $2,000 into it in 2003. Well, now I'm paying $3,600. So that $1,600 is what goes in. It wasn't that we raised taxes on ourselves or anybody else. There's still people out there that don't understand that. And also we say, you know, the URA is the eyes and ears for the city. And we run interference, so to speak, for the city commission, so you guys don't have to look at all these requests that come through, and then we bring them to you. I don't care how many times I've said it, everybody hears what they want to hear. We know that any decision we make is not a final decision. It has to come to the city council. And we say that over and over again, and maybe we've missed it in a meeting, and maybe some people, you know, haven't heard that. But there's so much that has been set up here tonight, and they're all valid things. And so it'd be a great opportunity to get together, get up and try to get everybody on the same page of where this money comes from, how it can be spent. It was created to do sidewalks, but that's not the only way in which this money can be spent. And there were other needs out there, and we talked to the League of City and Towns here in Montana. We've talked to the Main Street program, and we've talked to all these people on how this can be used, and that's how we've come up with the programs we've come up with. So I welcome that. I welcome to know the history. I welcome to know, you know, what things are going forward. I just hope that we can do it in a timely fashion, so the people that we are holding up here can have an answer one way or the other, because some of them, it is probably going to affect whether they do their projects or not. And some of them have started these projects. So, you know, that's just all I ask, is that we can set that meeting as quickly as possible and have everything together that we need to have together.
Great.
Bob Epinger again. Yes, I would just ask you, if you do table this, that you table all the requests, including the $90,000 for the city, to be fair to the other applicants that were here today, and we figure out where all the finances are before we make any decisions on any of the items on your agenda. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, come on, Warren, come on up.
Go ahead, Warren.
Warren, maybe 310 South 8th Street. I don't know the bylaws, regulations, or whatever of a URA, but I think what has been spent in Livingston, if there was a means test for the applicants, that they would go all the way from really needing the money to really not. Is that a possibility, or does it have to be a totally neutral judgment as to whether an applicant deserves or really requires the money. And the second thing is a question for the city. As I understand it, the city does not do any bonding or any other type loan vehicles for financing thing, or is that wrong?
No, we do. Yeah, we do have bonding. So that is something that we're already engaged in.
Okay, thank you.
And your first question, I think we probably have to have legal counsel to really answer that one.
Right.
You asked us last.
I'm sorry. If you have some more comment, please come up to the front. Thank you. Thank you, Warren.
Thank you.
Jack Luther, 104 South Fifth Street, Livingston. I don't have a business downtown. I don't have any property in the URA, but I do attend a lot of the URA meetings. And I know that, I guess you'd have to call in hoops that these business owners have to jump to apply for these grants from the URA. And it's sometimes takes a year for them to get an approval for a grant like that. I would recommend that the commission not table items B through E if the URA has the money to do that. And I assume they do. I hate to see these people wait any longer for the money. I know some of the improvements have been done already. Some of them are in progress. And I would just like to see you pass items B through E so that these folks can get their grants and get going on the project. And then go ahead and have the meetings and find out what the finances are for you. And give them some guidelines so that they can operate more efficiently. Thank you very much.
So just a point of clarification as far as I'm concerned. We were asked last year about this time well, it was later in the summer, it was more like August, to come up with criteria for how we evaluate our application. So Warren asked, is there criteria? Yes, there is criteria. That's why Patricia Grabo's boiler was put on hold for a bit and then slipped through the cracks, was because you were waiting for us to put together that criteria, which we worked very closely with the two city attorneys to get put together. So yes, there is criteria that we have been asked to follow when we make these decisions. And it's so just a point of clarification.
Got something else?
I think the criteria that we get are on the website.
Yeah, I don't, the question was, do they have means or not? And I don't, the question was, I don't know if that was in the criteria or not. If it isn't, then.
Bob Evinger, I think that that's a misnomer to consider whether someone's wealthy or not, because some of these projects, like the Albemarle, is $1 million, or $2 million. It's fully booked now. They have commercial going in. So I don't think it's fair to judge that as against Shelley's $16,000 facade. To her, that's a lot of money. And I think to the Albemarle, he helped them open up public bathrooms and do what was necessary to remove asbestos. It was a health hazard for the community. So I don't think it's fair to say, do these people need it or not? They needed that much money in order to provide a service, which the Chamber of Commerce encouraged us to promote that. So I don't think that, I think that's a misnomer as to whether people deserve it or or financially needed. I think everybody needs a little boost when they do major projects. And also, I just want to say that there's been a couple comments here that I think denigrate URA members and our judgment and how we review things. We have strict criteria that's administered first by the state as to what an urban renewal district can have and what a TIS district is. And we have criteria that was set up and adopted in 2003 by the city commission saying what the URA was, why it was set up for, and it was set up basically to do away with blight. And I think blighted buildings are just as bad as blighted streets. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? Okay. So what's the pleasure of the commission tonight?
Well, is there a time of essence?
Commissioner Sandberg?
I'll make a motion to approve items B through E.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
I guess I'd just like to state that, as I stated before, that there is obviously a huge deficit in funding the sidewalks, but when we look at the requests before us, it's not going to change that debt really one way or the other. And you know, we're just as much as a commission to blame for not demanding finances and an understanding of the URA, which hasn't been done. So we're just as guilty as anyone else in this process. So we currently have adopted a process of having a board that oversees these funds, and we've given them the jurisdiction to make these decisions and to make their recommendations, which is what they have done under the purviews of the misinformation that was provided to them previously by the finance department in the city. So we're kind of all in this problem together, and I don't think that the spirit of the current URA to help these businesses move forward falls within the prelude of the program. And you know, we got our work cut out for us, but $80,000 isn't going to change that.
Any other public comment? Commission comments? That's a question.
What will the balance be to the fund?
Can't hear you.
What will the balance be to the fund if it's approved, or if B through B are approved?
Yeah.
So we're ready to vote. Before we vote, my preference is to table so that we can have clear understanding of where we are financially. We never have as a commission. I think $80,000 is a lot. You know, it does make a difference, and I think that it's our responsibility to make sure, even though we've requested for years, this information from everyone who's come before us in the past administration. I think now that we can obtain that, I think we should know what we're doing before we proceed forward. So those are my comments.
We couldn't hear the answer to Commissioner Hoagland's question, what the balance would be after the 80,000.
Depending on how you want to look at the fiscal years, fiscal year 17, 18, if all the current requests are approved, make sure I grab the right ones. 262 minus 90 would be 150,000. However, the 90,000 for the city was pushed into the next fiscal year, so that would roll over. But it would be 150 to 262,000, and there's another 94,000 of pending applications. Is that right, Bob?
Actually, the 83,000 probably is going to be withdrawn.
Okay, so then there's another 11,000 pending applications, which would bring the remaining balance at the end of the year up to about $230,000. It's going to be between $230,000 and $270,000 at the end of the fiscal year, which would improve the FY20 balance to somewhere around $70,000, more or less.
Any other clarification needed from the commission? Any other public comment? Mr. Curtis?
Just on the, I'd just like to address the issue of tabling the items. In this case, I wouldn't recommend a vote to table, which I know is not the motion up right now, but if you're considering that in your votes, the fundamental question doesn't change. The fundamental question is without additional financing, there's not enough money to meet the sidewalks. So if we approve these, it's not going to make a huge difference. It will make some difference, but the fundamental question doesn't change. We can certainly get more detailed financials, but in the end, the question is, do we want to go ahead and fund these items, which are all worthy items? And I want to make sure that the city's position is clear on that. The recommendation against this is not against any of the individual programs. The programs are great. The individuals receiving them are great. It's just a recommendation to clearly understand the results of that. That down the road somewhere we're going to have to pay for it. Whether that's through bonding, then the issue is solved. We don't have to worry about it. But if it's not, then that's money's going to have to come from somewhere else. And I just want to make sure that all the property owners understand that the sidewalks are the responsibility of the property owners. And if for some reason the URA funds run out, they are fully responsible for the sidewalks. So that issue doesn't change. No matter if I get you more detailed information, that basic premise remains. And that's really the question is, does this matter in the big scheme of things? If the answer is no, then perhaps we just institute a policy at this point that no more of these get done until we understand the funding. We go ahead with what we have because they're expecting it. And then we put a moratorium on it until we understand the finances better. But more detailed information isn't going to change the fundamental question for you. Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Chairperson Bennett,
No?
Commissioner Holtman,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedman.
Yes.
Commissioner Sandberg.
Or
Motion passes. Round of applause business. All right. So, we have, with that one, action items B, C, D, and E. We have action item F before us. Mr. Cardos?
Actually, item F is the urban renewal grant approval for the city for $90,000. This was requested and approved in order to be able to move forward both phases of the construction in the calendar FY18 calendar FY18 construction season across the two fiscal years, 18 and 19. That goes to defray some of the costs in the general fund that we couldn't pay for, our gas tax or street tax. If not approved, then those funds would have to be made up for on the general fund because of the designations of the street funds and the gas tax funds. There's no other revenue, there's no other option to fund those. And that's why this request went in, is to defray the cost to the general fund, not to the street maintenance fund or to the gas tax street fund.
So, commission discussion? Commissioner Sandberg?
History perspective, so we are hearing that the URA had a pledge to help business owners with sidewalks to the CIP project. Similarly, did we have the same agreement with the CIP?
I think there were portions, and Bob, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there were portions that were scheduled for the CIP, or for the URA to cover in the CIP, but they were not in the projections that I gave you tonight or this week. Those were removed. So right now, because of the
the balance and the financial outlook of the URA. The city's looking at covering all those costs in the CIP and letting the URA cover costs for property owners instead.
And so in our last budget session, I think we had about 90,000 to work with in our current budget, which is about the same that we're requesting from the CIP or from the URA. Then.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commission comments, discussion? Commissioner Holman?
I just want to make a motion to table item, action item F until we are clear as to the city's role, responsibilities, ERA's responsibilities, when it comes to the sidewalks and stuff there. I still want to put that on the table.
You're making the motion to table.
I'm going to motion to table.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so is the motion a second? Commission discussion? Any public comment? Roll call.
Chairperson Bennett,
No?
Commissioner Holden,
Yes.
Commissioner Friedman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandberg,
4.
Motion passes. All right, that is it for this evening. City manager comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually have no comments tonight. Everything is on track and there's nothing significantly different going on. So, all right, happy to work.
Okay. Commissioner Sandberg.
2. 1, are the bathrooms open? The public restrooms?
The city doesn't currently hold contracts, so we don't have staff for that.
They're open.
They're open. And what are their hours that they're open?
I think it's during business hours.
How can a person get a definitive answer on that?
All day on the line. Yeah, call Richard.
So they own them?
It's an LLC. I understood that they have been open, I'm not sure how often, but I also understood there's no contract for cleaning and how that's being done, I have no idea.
How can a commissioner, when we approved funding for public restrooms that were supposed to be open for the public, how can we get a definitive answer that those bathrooms are working and functional for the public?
I can check with the owners for you if you want. That's the only way we would know is to check with the owners.
That would be fantastic. Thank you. The other question I have is regarding protocol. So we had an item here that was tabled, and this happens often. And then where's the discussion that we bring this topic back up? When do we have that discussion of when a tabled item will be on the agenda again and when we will have a discussion? Mr. Chair.
Well, in this particular case, the request was to have more information and make sure that we're clear on the financing. So when that takes place, then we can meet on it and discuss it as a separate action.
The motion we approved was to table. As far as the criteria of what we were looking for was never approved. There were discussions on a collaboration with multiple entities getting together for a work session. There was a discussion of more financial information where the city manager said, you know, you have the financial information, we are in debt. So I'm just trying to understand where the conversation goes from here.
Well, at least in my mind, what the conversation is still what we're looking for is what's our projection with money for the URA? What are the expenditures? What is the commitment to the building owners for sidewalk reimbursement? And, you know, is there a function open to us for bonding with the URA?
And so is that a directive then that we're giving to the city manager to report back to us in a certain amount of time, or what's the time frame for this discussion?
I think we have to leave that up to the administration to give us the time frame in which they can give us provide all that information, because it's gonna take some time to research and to pull that information so that it can be presented to everyone for decision.
Guesstimation?
I'd like them to, if you want to give an estimation, that's fine, but I think they're gonna need time to figure out what they're gonna need to pull together and who they need to talk to.
I think before I can give you a good estimate, I need to understand better what the actual request is, because I'm not really sure what's being asked for.
Me either, that's what I'm trying to clarify. Because we have the financial information, I mean, that's not gonna change. We have the breakdown of how far in debt we are and what our obligations are with the sidewalks. So that's what I'm also trying to understand what we're missing.
Is there any other details we need on this particular sheet?
That's the current financials. Bob gave us the information that the $83,000 request may be pulled. That'd be the only change I would see in that. The projections aren't going to change. As far as the financials go, that's what we have.
I think the other thing we need to know is we've been told for years as a commission that fulfilling this obligation for the property owners of sidewalk replacement is all contingent upon bonding. So we need to have clear direction whether the URA is in a position to bond or not, or if there's some type of cooperative bonding between the city and the URA. So that's, I think, part of the equation as well, because if it is, that's a different story than if it isn't capable of bonding. In regards to future requests for downtown improvements, at least in my mind,
I would agree it is for future requests. I'm not sure how to directly relate that back to the current request.
okay. With the current request is to, right now we know that we don't have the money to pay the property owners for their sidewalks. Is that correct?
That's correct. We don't have the out years. That's correct.
We don't have the out years. So if that's the case, then the commission needs to make the decision whether to approve any other expenditures except for anything regarding sidewalks. This is from my perspective. Or if we are going to have the ability to bond the URA, what's all the criteria involved in that so that we know that, so that we can provide answers to the downtown business owners, whether they can get their sidewalks paid for or not. I think that's the question.
Okay, so I was just making sure the question is separate from.
Yeah. And future projections, so we can understand what's coming down the pipe. What is been spent, so we can understand in relationship to the history of the URA funding. Also, just the URA's overall role, responsibilities, and our responsibilities even more so, just in a complete package. So then we can look at the sidewalk issue and the city's role in that with the requests from the city in a new light. That's just adding to what you're saying.
Is that clear or not?
I think so. The roles is something new. I think the rest of the information is there. I don't know if there's more specific than the expenditures list that already provided.
Well, it sounds like you're requesting historical expenses.
Like doing line item expenses?
From the.
Well, no, like all the approved URA expenditures. The plan, oh, I don't I got it.
Is that comprehensive enough?
But I think what it's part of the answer is what are some options? What are our plans? What kind of plans things can we do to look at this sidewalk issue in clear enough? Because I still don't feel like it's clear enough. I have this, I don't have this, whatever you're looking at. This.
Do you have another copy of that? I have another copy of that.
I just feel like we need more answers to really put the two pieces together, the city's role and the URA's role.
And I will provide whatever I can. I just want to remind you that we're doing a budget workshop on Thursday, where we're trying to finalize the general fund. And so if we haven't made this decision, we'll probably have to sweep that 9,000 is there, which is going to have some pretty large consequences in those other requests that we have.
Maybe we can get a little more clarification when we have that meeting. As far as, not at that time, I mean clarification of our request. If it's not clear. Okay. All right.
We will do what you ordered.
Okay. Commissioner Freeman, comments?
Okay. I want to thank the public for showing up tonight. It's valuable comments there. I also want to, walking downtown, I noticed that we filled a lot of empty holes in some of the buildings, and that's good news. And I had an early Father's Day gift last Friday of escorting my daughter up to Helena. She had to go to sign a major bill that she put through first year, and that was good. So that was really good. A very good gift. And thank you for all the comments tonight.
Mr. Holman.
I have to say, I've noticed too in the downtown that it's coming along. I'm appreciating the changes that we're seeing as streets as well as some of the facades and buildings that have improved it. I love looking at it. I love being downtown. So another thing, I won't be at the next commission meeting. I just want to remind you. Out far away. And then, so do you think we can plan a meeting? I'd like to at least plan a meeting with the URA, like we referred to earlier, of having a work session of some sort that I think James, you brought it up to, if we could plan one coming up in the near future.
What's the near future? What time are you?
Summer.
Oh, summer. Summer we can do.
All right, and then when will the traffic study be on the agenda? Absolutely.
So the draft is done. We're reviewing it. I need to schedule a meeting with them to sit down and review it. And then once we finalize it, we'll go on.
Do you think it can be in July?
I'm hoping it can be in July. But you can certainly review the draft if you wish. I can provide it to the commissioners to review it. Obviously, it's not final until we meet with them to have a discussion, but you can at least see the raw data in it.
Yes, I would love that. That's all.
Is there any public comment? Public comment tonight?
I want to say that I think Dan Hogan, so I think the question about the URA and the way their funding has been dealt with. I think the fundamental question is the CIP and how that has been planned and is being funded. And I think because that's not been done appropriately, it's making the URA look like they're going to go broke. And I think the problem needs to be focused on how are we accomplishing the CIP, which obviously isn't working, and how can that be done. Not just throwing that blame on the URA. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
I think part of the clarification with the URA does need to be made about what is the purview of the URA and how, where is the money supposed to be spent. As I told you earlier, my understanding when the URA was established was that it was for street improvements and sidewalks. And the current board and the past board have expanded the purview of the URA to spending on a lot of different things. And they've made that decision, and it's their decision, but my understanding as a paying member into the URA, and I understand I pay those taxes anyway, but I'm not happy with the way it's been going, and I really hope you guys will rein it in and so that it doesn't go in debt. I don't like pulling a credit card unless I have to.
Very much. Any other public comment?
Tricia Greenwood, 204 East Calendar Street. First of all, I want to just express my appreciation for the thoughtful deliberations that have been going on with the City Commission, and it is really appreciated by the community as a whole. So to say that. In addition, I would like to say that there's a lot of questions that this actually brings to the fore that I think we really need to take a look at. And that again is, we have streets that are crumbling. We have sidewalks where people have tripped and injured themselves. We are so far behind schedule on doing our downtown streets. We have the possibility of well-done streets at less interest, less expense, as Carla said, $4 a square foot in 2012. Now it's $12 a square foot. It behooves this commission, when they are making these discussions, to take a look at bonding to get the streets done right away, not put them off for 10 years. Nothing's going to help the economy if we put it off in that kind of way. So I think some of the things that have to come up with this discussion as we talk about the future of the URA is to talk about the future of our downtown streets. And it is possible for us at a considerably less interest, at considerably less cost in the long run, for us to have those beautiful streets downtown with our flower baskets and our new lights that are basically paid for, and really move forward in a positive way. And I just appreciate the fact that this commission is very thoughtful.
Very much. Are there any other public comment? Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? This meeting of the Livingston City Commission is adjourned at 8:30 p.m.
Yeah.
One in a row.
Yeah. Well,